Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today what we're going to look at is Audacity, which is an open source free wave editor or sound editor essentially. This isn't a very simple one like you might encounter on the old Windows with the sound recorder, but this has a lot more robust features and a lot of functionality that makes it, every bit as good as something like Sound Booth. It's just one of those things you just, if you do anything with audio, anything with video, you might want to use it. So I've actually encountered using Audacity twice this week. The first is the other day I got a random phone call for a random scammer, and I keep this little micro recorder on my desk, and so
speaking with today. Michael Johnson.
Woo! So, preview of coming attractions. I'm working on this video for this week. It's going to be a much more edited video, but basically when a scammer calls or whatever else, I keep this thing handy and I just go ahead and record the call as soon into the call as I possibly can. I really like getting to it before I can even get to him. But then what I can do is I can take this guy and I can record the sound from this onto Audacity. You might also have something crazy like old cassette tapes, and I specifically chose Metallica because of their hatred of MP3s. But I happen to have a Walkman here. This is called a Walkman for you people unfamiliar with cassette tapes. You could extract the sound off of those, and it's not going to sound super good, but it's going to be reasonable enough. Also, if you happen to have a WAV file or something on a phone, you can go ahead and use that with it. What I use Audacity for the most is I have a very extensive collection of adventures in Odyssey, which are fabulous little stories, and I digify them all so that I bring the CDs in. I record them onto MP3s, and then I just go ahead and shelve the CD so that I have access to the CD if I need it, but usually I just access them through there. Of course, there is some discrepancy and some difference. Should we use OGG? Should you use MP3? I just use MP3, and I outline the reasons why in another video. To briefly summarize, everything that I did was MP3 except a few things in WMA, and that format did not work well. And while I think most things I have can run OGG files, it's just for me a safer bet to say, I think more things will run MP3. And so I have an extensive library in MP3, and I don't have any major quibbles about encoding stuff into MP3 at this point in time. Regardless, I use Audacity as one program to do that. The other application I had is I was able to get a screen recorder working for Cubes, but it will not record audio. And so I recorded the audio for that video on a separate computer on Audacity, and then on Kdenlive I patched the audio and the video together to actually produce the final product. So those are your applications for using Audacity. And we're just going to have a look at some very basic Audacity functions. We're not going to go into a full-scale tutorial, but I am going to show you how to do a lot of things that will be very handy. So we are going to look at these basic Audacity items. If you want to see more information about Switch to Linux, go on over to switchtolinux.com. I am slowly working on hopefully getting more content built out there soon. It's just a matter right now of getting all the other channels and stuff I want to do ramped up is certainly what I'm working to do. And also you can help with that if you want to help support the channel with Patreon. That will enable me to eventually, what I would like to do is get enough in there that I can actually hire some part-time help to get either writing done or video editing done, something done, so that I don't have to do everything myself. So you can find me on Patreon at Patreon, and my account is Tom M. So with all of that, we're going to have a quick look at the Audacity's website. So this is it is a free and open source cross-platform. You can come down here to downloads and download it for your particular system. Obviously, we're going to have a look at this on Linux, being switched to Linux. And I am specifically using Linux Mint Cinnamon. And this is actually my web development slash video recording computer, and it actually, this thing looks like a MacBook Pro right now. It's just dongled all over the place. Of course, it's just extenders more than anything else. But anyway, the Audacity website will have all your information. They'll have links for if you are a user or a developer or a translator, things that you can do to help. Of course, if you are able to and you like using this software, I'd encourage you to look at their donations. Just because, that's what causes these free and open source platforms to work. It's user support. So go ahead and check that out if you get the chance. What we are going to do is we're going to boot up Audacity, and I'm just going to give you a real quick tour first. And then once the tour gets put into place, then what we are going to do is I'm going to show you a setup for how you can do some recording. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Sound and Video, open up Audacity. And I went ahead and put my picture there at the bottom of the screen, so it shouldn't, hopefully should not interfere. So what we have here is, you have your basic file menus, file, edit, where you can copy, cut, paste, etc. Zooming in or out. So there's a lot of different functions. Your track is your one where you can add new tracks, and you can add either mono or stereo tracks. There's a lot of functions here. Now you have a couple monitoring. The first monitoring here is, this is what is coming out of your mic monitoring, and the second is what is coming out of your speaker monitoring. Okay, now you'll see that nothing is coming out of the mic monitoring, but what the system will do is by default it grabs your default recorder. So on Linux Mint right now, I have my default recorder set to be my Samson Meteor mic, which is right here right now today. And I don't know, I'm kind of liking the Meteor mic without the stand a little bit better. I feel like I can get a little bit closer to me and it's still out of the way. I don't know. You guys let me know if the sound's better when it's here or if the sound's better when it's up on the stand above me. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. But you can manually select which device is going to be used for your recording. So right now in my current setup, I have my Meteor mic here. I have a web camera here with a stereo camera built in, and I have a web camera over here which has a mono microphone built in. So I could actually come down here and I could select from the various different items. Oh, and I also have this device, which is my my sound mixer. I'll show you in a few minutes. So I can actually select which device I'd like to use. Now, one item of note, so I'll switch over to the web camera, the 920 web camera, which is the one in front of me. And what you'll see is we still have good, strong stereo. I'm actually getting a whole lot of, that gets peaking into yellow, and that means that even just normal talking, it's probably picking up too much. So you'd want to change that from your sound settings in your system. The sound icon in the system tray is actually covered by my image, but you just click on that and there's a button there that says Sound Settings on Linux Mint, and that's going to open up a sound settings panel here. So here's your sound settings panel, and this will show you your various things. So here's my inputs. I have the built-in, I guess that's the other one, is that there is a built-in microphone on this thing, which is probably horrible. I don't know. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep it on the Meteor mic as the default. But what we can do is we can choose between our different things. Now, I'm going to switch over now to the 615 camera, which is over here. And what you'll notice right away when we click the monitoring button is you'll notice that it only has sound on the left. That means that this particular web camera is only a mono webcam. So keep that in mind if you are looking at webcams. I got the 615 because it has a flexibility to spin and it can still record an HD video. I never rely on these for the sound, but that's just something to keep in mind. And the 920 is certainly a far superior camera in many ways. I just like that the C15 also has some swivel abilities, which were specifically important for the application. Now, if I change back to whatever my default is, then what we notice is that it stays on mono. So if you are swapping between a mono and a stereo line, you want to come down here and you want to change this back to stereo, and that way it will now go back and pick up stereo. Okay. So over, this was the first one. The first box here next to the microphone will dictate this. This guy over here is where you can send your output to. It's important that you send your output out to the place that you want. So in my case right now, how I have my recording going to do the video, I don't want to interfere with the Meteor mic picking anything up. And that's kind of going to be my goal, is to not interfere with how the cameras are recording the cameras and how the Meteor mic's recording this. So I'm not going to do any recording or anything with the Meteor mic. If I really wanted good audio quality, that's exactly what I would do, because the Meteor mic is the best microphone I have in the office. So with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you my set. Actually, let's do a couple more things here. We have a tool panel here to the left of the microphone line input, and these items here will allow you to select just as a simple wave select. And then we have an envelope tool, which will allow us to ramp in and out sound, dampen or non-dampen. The draw tool actually allows us to manipulate individual points of wave on a nano scale. Zoom tool allows you to zoom in. You can shift some time there. And I'm going to have to play with that one. And then there's a multi-tool mode, which allows us to do a couple different things. On the opposite side, we have some options here. This is your sound input, and this is your playback volume, so you can go ahead and look at those. And then we have some other tools here that we cannot actually access until we get in and have something, but we have our cut, our copy, our paste, and then some things that will expand out and condense the waves, and I'll show you what those look like in a bit. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the other view here. So now we're going to have a look at the actual audio interfacing that I'm using. So since I don't do a whole lot of super amazing stuff with regarding audio, what I use is just a simple interface, which is I think $30–$35, somewhere around there. It does my needs exactly right. I can allow me to put in a standard microphone up on the front here. And this is actually the device that I got this specifically to do the cooking channel stuff, because that uses an external real microphone. Well, not a non-USB microphone. It'll also, though, allows me to plug in any RCA cables, which includes any headphone jack to RCA, which will enable me to record audio off of any device that happens to have a headphone jack. So, with that being said, what we're doing now is we're going to plug in our cassette tape into the player here, and then we're going to just plug the headphone jack into there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the Audacity. So let's go ahead and switch back over to Audacity there. And with Audacity, then what we're going to do is we are going to just double check, make sure that we are getting audio through and that we can detect everything. So I am first going to want to put on my headphones here and just push play on the tape and make sure I'm hearing through the monitor line that there is sound getting into the interface. Okay. So there is indeed sound getting to the interface, so I want to make sure I pull down my correct audio source, which is the USB coder, and you can see here that I'm getting good sound. Okay, so what we're going to do actually is I'm going to rewind the tape by flipping her over, and that's probably sufficient. Let's just do a quick double check. Huh? Not yet. Almost there. Yeah. First world problems, I'll tell you what. Okay, so now we're going to push play on here. It's going to take about 5 seconds or so. Now, on Audacity, just push your record button. It will automatically create a new track. Now, if you're finding it's mono, just double check up here at the top that you did not get mono there. You see it's kind of flatlining right now, and there's the sound comes in. So you're going to let it go. We're going to let it go until it picks up the heavy part of the song. I think, what is this? Song 1, side 1, battery. This is still the softer part. It's going to kind of get loud and thrashy here in a minute. So you can't hear any of the audio, but I can confirm it's working. Do you see me take down? So there's the heavy part of the song. You can see how the wave changes. So to stop recording any time, just hit the stop button. And then if at any point in time you do want to record again, just hit the record button. It'll create a new track inside the album. That's going to restart at the 0 line. We can talk about what to do about those another time. Okay, so we're going to stop that. Okay. So there is how you can go ahead and make simple recordings. So that is how you can do any of the recordings dealing with any of the any device that has a headphone jack, like, you know, not an iPhone 7. That's right, I'm going to rip on iPhone 7 for all eternity. Now, I am getting some encoding issues, probably due to the vast number of stuff attached to this poor laptop. So I'm going to pause out the video, disconnect half of my equipment, and come back in when I should be able to get some better quality. So I will be right back. And we are back. So I'm not sure exactly if it's Audacity that's causing the problem with getting this. Like, I have not had these the blips and the stuttering in a long time, and I'm wondering if it's a combination of Audacity and everything else. So I'm gonna see what happens. I can monitor my OBS. The other thing it could be is running this laptop with a big external monitor could also potentially cause an issue. And so those are some of the potential things to keep in mind. Could this happen on Windows? Most likely. This would probably happen anywhere. But regardless, we're going to go through here and do the best I can. I'm going to keep an eye on my low decoder, and I'm not completely sure. I mean, it could be the vast number of microphones all hooked up, the number of cameras hooked up, the extra soundboards hooked up. So there were a lot of different things, but basically there was a lot of things vying for the computer's individualized attention, and so I wanted to take those off. So sorry for the stutteriness, but you can see what we did so far is we plugged in the Walkman, which you can also do with a phone, a tablet, anything with a headphone jack, anything but an iPhone 7, you know, and a few other odds and ends that don't have a headphone jack for some silly reason. And you can use that same system to record. And I like I said, I use Audacity specifically to record encode MP3s off of individual albums that I have. So now that we have some waves in here, what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you how to do some simple manipulations in here. So the first thing is you'll see that this first part here is from the song that was not before the cassette tape started playing the sound. So about 10 seconds. So first world problems, man. We used to have to wait 10 seconds before sound would start coming out of our headphones. I mean, this is child abuse. This is crazy. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play a quick part of that track. Now, to play just one track and not the other, we want to hit the solo button that's over here. So you'll see on the left panel here, you'll see things. We can collapse an individual track here if we're done looking at it for a moment. Mute will mute the individual track. So you'll see that a gray track is one that is muted. But if you hit the solo button, it will mute all tracks except the one that you have there right now. So looks like you cannot mute and solo simultaneously. All right, so we are going to solo this, and if I hit the play, then once we get in there, you'll to that 10-second mark, you'll start to hear the sound, and I'm going to stop it so Lars doesn't come find me. Okay, so there's what you have. So to get rid of all of this extra space, simply grab it and push delete. Bink. now it's gone. So there's some ways that we can move this. I wanted to double check the, let's see. Is this the tool? Let's cut. I wanted to double check this tool up here because I was looking for how to time shift things. I'm wondering if this guy here does allow time shifting. Beautiful. That's the one thing I was looking for earlier. I could not find it. I didn't realize it was there. So the application here, of course, is that the first tool up here is your single select or your multi-select. But if I were working on a track and I wanted to put it in one exact spot, so like maybe right before this, well, first I might want to narrow in and figure out what the best part of that is. So if you grab your magnifying glass tool, I can actually just highlight this part. It will magnify all the pieces that was there. So this is that little gap right there. So I'm going to grab this guy and say, okay, I want that to be right there. Okay, so what can we do about that? Well, what we're going to do is I can grab my time shift tool here, and now I can grab this guy until the exact spot is lined up with where I need it to be. So that's the time shift tool and allows us to do that. Okay, so to get your whole wave back on again, up here in the upper right panel, oh, where'd my mouse go? There you go. There in my upper right panel, this first box here will zoom the whole thing to fit the project in the window. So this is everything. So here's the softer part of the song, and here's that heavy, thrashier, louder part of the song. So let me just do that section right there. So there's that part there. So you also have the ability, if you have just a portion selected, this guy over here will zoom to that selected portion. So if you're working in detail right there, you can do this. It's essentially another way of using this magnifying tool, but if you've selected and highlighted a piece, you can do that individually. Of course, you can zoom the wave in and out like that. Okay. So that is some basic functionality. One other feature. Suppose that we happen to have a monoline. See, I should have dropped a monoline in here too. I totally forgot to drop a monoline in. I want to show you how you can create a monoline, but I should be able to actually convert this track into stereo track to mono. There we are. So if you end up with a monoline track and you need to make a stereo line track out of it, you notice that there is a stereo to mono, but there isn't any mono to stereo. So what you're going to want to do is, with the track highlighted, you want to duplicate it. So you'll find that under the edit, and it's Control D if you're a hotkey fan. Oh, I keep doing that. I have too many things selected when I'm doing that. I don't want everything selected. I merely want this one selected. Okay, so now I have two of these selected. So there is a little arrow caret here. Pull this down. This is a context menu. So you can actually decide, is this mono or what this is. So we're going to select the first one as a left channel, the second one as a right channel. And then with this top one here, what we're going to do is hit this button and hit Make Stereo Track. So this is what converts this into a stereo track. Okay, of course, we talked about time shifting, editing. Of course, you can copy and paste. So I can come up here. Of course, copy is your Control C, and then I can come up here, and maybe I want to drop it right here and make some crazy hybrid song. I can Control V that right in the middle. So I can do all sorts of things like that. Of course, there are in this some other tools. So we have, if you need to amplify it, you have the amplification. You can create an echo chamber. You can do fading in, fading out. You know, just a lot of other neat and interesting things. So with that, let's see. You can close out an individual track just by clicking on the X over there. Now, saving projects in Audacity. As far as saving projects in Audacity, you want to come down here, and if you hit the save, the first time you do this, and I'm pretty sure it will not give me the prompt, but the first time you do this, it should give you a prompt that reminds you that you're saving this as an Audacity product, a .aup file. Okay? So when you do this, one thing Audacity is not very good at least on Linux, I can't say for other operating systems, but at least on Linux, is that it does not like to put in the correct extensions. You will manually have to double check your extensions, make sure they're good. But that will save as an Audacity project file, which is all of your edits, paste, all your tracks, your hidden ones, your externals. So if you want to save a file, though, you want to come down and hit the Export Audio. So under the Export, you can pick this option here, and you can grab any number of things. So if you want a lossless quality, you probably want to do a 32-bit WAV file. This gives you a very large file, but it is completely lossless quality, and that's very important because we don't want to get into the habit of dropping everything into MP3s, because you get that same degree of digital degradation in MP3. There's a little bit of loss of the file. The reason the MP3 is useful is it's not super noticeable, but it is very, very small. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to save the WAV file, and I'm going to save the MP3 file so you can see the difference. Okay, so you do have the tag option, which I didn't think was possible in a WAV file, but apparently it is. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to save as an MP3. Now, if you're like a pure open source, free only, you want to use OGG. For me, I prefer MP3. I just find that in my individual case, it just works out better just because, you know, I like MP3s. I was around when MP3s were like not even a thing. And I remember when the first MP3 encoders came out, it literally took 5 hours if you wanted to rip one CD. I mean, you had to do this crazy thing. The thing would crash half the time. It gave you this result. And then you had to run a DOS prompt tool to ID tag it. Okay, so here, double check your quality. So I'll actually go, I'm going to go extreme quality. And we're going to save this. Okay, so our compression is in. So now I'm going to come down to the minimize this guy, and we're going to have a look at all the mess on my desktop. So let's just have a look at our AUP file. Is 4.5 kilobytes. And if I remember correctly, I thought the AUP file comes with its own folder as well. So this is it, which contains a whole lot of junk. So you get an AUP file with an accompanying folder, and that folder contains 35 megabytes of data. So our test.wave, which is essentially a lossless quality, this is an 18.4 megabyte. And our very good quality MP3 is 1.5. That's why MP3s are used. It's not a better audio format. And if you are looking at getting into using audio, make sure that you are using WAV files for all of your masters, because it is a lossless quality. Of course, save these AUP files somewhere as well. Just make sure you have a folder for them so they're not dropping test data all over your stuff. All right, so that is that, and I hope that this part of the video recorded a whole lot better. I did not notice any issues. I'm thinking, you know, in retrospect, I'm thinking where the problem is coming into play is having OBS record audio while simultaneously Audacity recording audio from the same system. I'm thinking that's my problem, but that'll cause a lot of stuttering in there. I'm thinking that's what was going to happen there. So regardless, I hope that this was very helpful for you. It's just a very brief introduction to Audacity. It's just to show you what the Linux software can do. Additionally, if you did like the video and you would like to help support the channel, we are on Patreon at Tom M. I use one Patreon account to support all of my different endeavors. Some of them are still ongoing, some of them are temporarily on hold, and some of them, like Switch to Linux, just keep on keeping me up until 4:30 in the morning because the video keeps on not working. But I think it's because I'm trying to record too many audios of the same thing. I really should be doing this on the big computer, not on this little laptop. But, oh well. I don't think I have Audacity over there. I think that's the difference. Well, anyway, this has been Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thanks.